I found out my husband hid a $48,000 bonus from me, the same way you find out a stranger is living in your house by accident and far too late. The email wasn't even meant for me. It popped up on David's laptop while he was in the shower. "Congratulations on your annual performance bonus." That's what it said. $48,000 while he'd been telling me we needed to cut back. 35 years of marriage and suddenly I didn't know the man I slept beside. And that wasn't even the worst part. If you've ever felt like something was off in your marriage, I want you to stay with me on this. Like this video, if you believe honesty matters more than comfort, and tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now? I read every single one. I didn't confront David that night. At 62 years old, you learn something about timing. You learn that the first reaction, the emotional one, is rarely the smartest. And right then, I wasn't just hurt. I was humiliated. So I closed his laptop exactly the way I found it. I wiped the tears from my face. And when he walked out of the bathroom in his robe hair still damp, I smiled. "Dinner's ready," I said. He looked at me for a second, just a second too long, like he was checking something, measuring something. Then he nodded. "Smells good." That was David. Calm, controlled, predictable. Or at least I thought he was. We sat at the table we'd had for nearly 3 decades. Same chairs, same plates, same routine. He talked about work. I nodded in the right places. I even laughed once, though I don't remember why. And all I could think about was that number. $48,000. I kept replaying the email in my head. The wording, the date, the fact that it had been sent 3 days ago. 3 days of him waking up next to me, kissing my cheek, asking me if we should cut back on groceries. 3 days of lies. "Everything okay?" he asked suddenly. I realized I'd been staring at him. "Yes," I said quickly, just a little bit aring at him. "Yes," I said quickly, just tired. He nodded again, that same careful nod, like he was filing something away. That moment stayed with me longer than anything else that night, because it wasn't guilt I saw in his eyes. It was calculation. And that scared me more than the money. After dinner, he went into his study. That was normal too. He liked to unwind by checking emails or reading reports. I used to think it was dedication. Now I wondered if it was privacy. I cleaned the kitchen slowly, too slowly. My mind was racing, but my hands moved like everything was normal. Plate by plate, glass by glass. 35 years. We had built a life together, raised 2 children, paid off a house, survived layoffs, illnesses, arguments that lasted weeks, and never, not once, had I ever questioned where the money was going. That was his domain. I used to be proud of that. I trust him, I would tell my friends. God, I can still hear myself saying it. When I finally went upstairs, the house felt different. Not physically. Nothing had changed. But something underneath it had shifted. Like the foundation had cracked, and I was the only one who could feel it. David was already in bed, scrolling on his phone. "You coming?" he asked. "In a minute." I went into the bathroom and closed the door. That's when I let myself feel it. Not just anger, not just betrayal, but something deeper. Doubt. I stared at myself in the mirror for a long time. The same face I'd had for years. Older now, softer around the edges, lines that told stories I used to be proud of. And I asked myself a question I never thought I'd ask. How much do I actually know about my husband? The answer came too quickly. Not enough. I brushed my teeth, washed my face, went through the routine like muscle memory. When I came back into the bedroom, I slipped into bed beside him. He reached over like he always did, resting his hand lightly on my arm. A familiar gesture, a comforting one. Except tonight, it felt wrong, like it didn't belong to me anymore. I lay there in the dark eyes open, listening to his breathing. Steady, calm, unbothered. I wondered how long he had been keeping things from me. Because here's the thing people don't talk about enough. Secrets don't start big. They start small. A purchase you don't mention. A bank statement you don't explain. A conversation you don't feel like having. And then one day, you're hiding $48,000 from your wife. I started thinking back. Moments I had ignored. The time he said his bonus wasn't much this year, even though we'd paid off the car faster than expected. The time I asked about a bank notice and he said, just paperwork, then changed the subject. The time he got defensive, really defensive, when I suggested we sit down and go over our finances together after retirement. At the time, I had told myself it was pride. Now it felt like something else. Pattern. And patterns don't lie. Around midnight, I felt him shift beside me. You're still awake, he murmured. You worrying about something? I hesitated. This was it. I could say it. I could turn to him and ask what bonus David. But something inside me stopped me. Not fear, not weakness, instinct. No, I said softly, just thinking about what I turned slightly enough to look at him in the dark. Life, I said. He let out a quiet breath. You always do that too much. I almost laughed. Too much thinking. If only he knew. Good night, Christine, he said, already drifting off. Good night. But I didn't sleep. Not really. Instead, I listened to every movement, every breath, every small sound in the house that suddenly felt unfamiliar. And sometime around 2 a.m., I made a decision. I wasn't going to ask him. Not yet. Because whatever he was hiding, it wasn't something small. And if I confronted him too early, he would lie. I knew that now. No, if I wanted the truth, I was going to have to find it myself. The next morning, I woke up before him. That wasn't unusual. I've always been an early riser. But that day it felt different. Purposeful. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and stared at the sunlight creeping across the floor. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a wife. I felt like an outsider looking into my own life. And I hated it. David came downstairs 20 minutes later, tying his tie. Morning, he said, kissing my cheek. I didn't flinch. But I noticed everything. The way he avoided eye contact just a little. The way he checked his phone before even pouring coffee. The way he seemed distracted. Big day? I asked casually. Always, he said. He smiled, and for the first time in 35 years, I didn't believe him. Drive safe, I said as he grabbed his keys. Always do. He left. The door closed, and just like that, the house fell silent. I sat there for a long moment. Then I stood up, walked to the hallway, and looked toward his study. I had never gone through his things before, not once. But that morning, I realized something had already changed. Trust had been broken. And once that happens, privacy becomes a privilege, not a right. I took a slow breath. Then I walked into his study. David's study smelled like him. That's the first thing I noticed when I stepped inside. After all these years, I could recognize that scent anywhere. Clean cologne, old paper, and something faintly metallic like ink or machinery. It used to comfort me. Now it made my stomach turn. I stood there for a moment, just inside the doorway, as if crossing some invisible line, because that's exactly what it felt like. I had never searched his things before. Not once. even when money was tight, even when things didn't quite add up, even when my instincts whispered that something wasn't right. I had trusted him, but trust, I was learning, can make you blind. I closed the door behind me, slowly, deliberately. "Okay," I whispered to myself, "just look." His desk was exactly the way he always kept it: neat, organized, almost sterile. A man who liked control, every pen in its place, every document stacked cleanly. Except now, I didn't see order. I saw strategy. I sat down in his chair. For a second, I hesitated. Then I reached for the top drawer. Office supplies. Nothing unusual. Second drawer. Old receipts. Utility bills. Some unopened mail. Third drawer. Locked. Of course it was. I stared at the small metal lock like it was mocking me. "Really?" I muttered. In 35 years, I had never noticed that drawer being locked. Or maybe I had, and I just never questioned it. That realization hit harder than the lock itself. How many things had I seen but chosen not to see? I leaned back in the chair thinking. David wasn't careless. If something was locked, it mattered. And if it mattered, it was exactly where I needed to look. I stood up and started scanning the room more carefully. Bookshelf, framed photos, filing cabinet, nothing obvious. Then my eyes landed on something small but familiar. A ceramic bowl on the corner shelf, the one we used to keep spare keys in. I walked over, heart beating faster than it should. Inside, there were a few random things. Loose change, a paperclip, an old USB drive, and then a small brass key. I picked it up. It felt heavier than it should have. "Don't be stupid," I whispered. But my feet were already moving. Back to the desk. Back to the locked drawer. I slid the key into the lock. For a second, nothing happened. Then click. That sound echoed louder than anything else in the room. I froze, listening, waiting. But the house stayed quiet. I pulled the drawer open slowly. Inside was not what I expected. No stacks of cash, no obvious secrets, just a folder. One single plain manila folder. I picked it up, my hands suddenly unsteady. Okay. I opened it. And that's when everything shifted. Bank statements, but not ours. Not the joint account I knew. This was different. Different account number. Different balance. My eyes scanned the page quickly. And there it was. Deposit $48,000. 3 days ago. Same amount as the bonus. Transferred into this account. My chest tightened. So it was real. He hadn't just hidden the bonus from me. He had moved it, deliberately, carefully, quietly. Why, I whispered. But the answer wasn't on that page. I flipped to the next one. More transactions. Smaller deposits. Regular. Consistent. This wasn't new. This account had been active for years. Years. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. This wasn't one lie. This was a system. I kept flipping, and then I saw it. Account name David Wells, and underneath it, Emily Carter. I stopped breathing. Who, I said out loud. The name meant nothing to me, which was exactly the problem. Because after 35 years of marriage, there shouldn't be a name connected to my husband that I didn't recognize. My hands started to shake. Emily Carter. I said it again in my head, slowly, trying to place it, trying to remember if I had ever heard it before. Nothing. Not from friends, not from work events, not from family. Nothing. which meant one thing. She was being kept separate, hidden, just like the money. A sharp wave of nausea hit me. "No," I whispered. No, I didn't want to say the word, but it was already there. Affair. It made sense. Too much sense. Secret account. Hidden money. A woman I didn't know. All the pieces were falling into place, and I hated the picture they were forming. I sat there frozen, staring at the name. Emily Carter. How long? That question came next. How long had this been going on? Months, years. Was she young? Did he love her? Did he plan to leave me? My mind spiraled faster than I could control. Suddenly, every late night, every work call, every unexplained absence felt like evidence, like proof I had ignored. I flipped through the rest of the documents searching for anything else. There were addresses, a city about 40 minutes away, phone numbers, dates, patterns. Everything was organized, clean, controlled, just like him. I slammed the folder shut. The sound startled me. I pressed my hand against my mouth, breathing hard. "This isn't happening," I whispered. But it was. It had been happening, for longer than I even knew how to measure. I stood up quickly, pacing the room. No, think, Christine. Think. I couldn't just fall apart. Not yet. Because if this was true, if David had another life, then I needed to understand it completely before I said a single word. I looked back at the folder, at the name, Emily Carter. My heart pounded harder, because deep down I knew this wasn't just about money anymore. This was about betrayal. The kind that doesn't start overnight. The kind that builds quietly, layer by layer, until one day you realize your entire marriage might have been something else entirely. I took a deep breath, then another. "Okay," I said, forcing my voice steady. "If this is what you're doing, then I need to see it with my own eyes. Not papers, not numbers. Reality." I grabbed my phone, opened the camera, and took pictures of everything. Every page, every number, every detail. Evidence. Because something told me I was going to need it. When I finally put the folder back exactly where I found it, my hands were steady again. Not because I felt better, but because something inside me had changed. The shock was still there. The pain, too. But underneath it was something sharper, colder, clarity. I walked out of the study, closing the door behind me. The house felt different now. Not broken, not yet, but exposed. Like I had finally turned on a light in a room I had been avoiding for years. I looked at the clock. 10:17 a.m. David wouldn't be home for hours, which meant I had time. Time to find out who Emily Carter really was. And more importantly, what she meant to my husband. I grabbed my keys, because if there was one thing I knew for sure now, it was this: I wasn't going to sit at home and guess. I was going to find the truth, even if it destroyed everything. I didn't drive right away. I sat in the car, hands on the steering wheel, staring straight ahead, like I'd forgotten how to move. Emily Carter. The name echoed in my head like a ticking clock. Every second it got louder. "Think," I whispered. "Don't rush," because rushing meant reacting, and reacting meant making mistakes. I had spent 35 years being the calm one, the reasonable one, the one who kept things together when everything else fell apart. I wasn't about to lose that now, not when I needed it the most. So instead of driving to that address immediately, I did something else, something I hadn't done in years. I reached for my phone and called my daughter. Laura picked up on the third ring. "Hey, Mom. Everything okay?" Her voice was warm, familiar, safe. For a second, I almost broke, almost told her everything. But I stopped myself. "Not yet." "Hi, sweetheart," I said, forcing my voice steady. "I just had a question." "About what bank accounts?" I said. "Hypothetically." There was a pause. Hypothetically, she repeated, a little suspicious. "Yes," I said quickly. "Just humor me." "Okay," she said slowly. "What kind of question?" I took a breath. "If someone had a separate account, not a joint one, just their name and another person's name, what does that mean legally?" Another pause, longer this time. "Mom," Laura said, her tone shifting. "What's going on?" "Nothing," I said. "I'm just asking. You never just ask about legal stuff." "Did something happen with Dad?" I closed my eyes. Of course she would go there. She always had a good instinct. "I just need information," I said quietly. "Please." Laura sighed. "Oh, yay," she said. "If it's a joint account with another person, that usually means shared ownership, either for convenience or because they're financially connected somehow." "Financially connected," I repeated. "Yes, like business partners, family members sometimes." She hesitated. "Sometimes what I pressed. Sometimes affairs," she said carefully. The word hit me like a punch, even though I had already thought it. Hearing it out loud made it real. "Right," I said softly. "But it depends," Laura added quickly. "There are a lot of reasons. It's not automatically I know." I cut in. Silence filled the line. "Mom," she said gently, "you're scaring me." "I'm okay," I said. That wasn't entirely true, but I needed her calm. "I just have one more question." "Okay." "If money is being moved into that account from a marriage, is that legal?" Another pause. "Short answer," she said. "It can be complicated. If it's shared marital money, then both spouses technically have rights to it. But if one person is moving it without telling the other..." "Yes, it could be a problem," she said, "especially in a divorce situation." Divorce. That word landed heavier than everything else, because until that moment, I hadn't said it. Not even in my own head. "Mom," Laura said again. "Talk to me." "What's going on?" I opened my eyes, stared at the quiet street in front of me. "I just need to look into something first," I said. "I promise I'll tell you when I know more." "You better?" she said softly. "And Mom?" "Yes. Whatever it is, you don't have to handle it alone." That almost broke me again, but I held it together. "I know," I said. "Thank you." We hung up. I sat there for a moment longer, absorbing everything she had said. Shared ownership, financial connection, possible affair, legal risk. The pieces were coming together faster now, and none of them felt good. I looked down at the address I had written on a small piece of paper. 40 minutes away, not far. Close enough for secrecy, far enough for distance. Of course, I muttered. David had always been careful. I started the engine. This time, I didn't hesitate. The drive felt longer than it was. Every red light annoyed me. Every slow car in front of me felt like an obstacle. Because now, I wasn't just curious. I was on edge. My mind kept replaying scenarios. What if I saw them together? What if she opened the door? What if she knew about me? Worse, what if she didn't? That thought stayed with me. Because if she didn't know about me, Then what had David told her? The GPS voice interrupted my thoughts. Turn left in 300 feet. I followed the directions automatically. The neighborhood changed as I drove, from quiet, older homes like mine to something newer. Smaller houses, cleaner lines, fresh paint. Younger. Everything felt younger. I hated that word. I slowed down as I approached the address. My heart started pounding again. There it was. A small, neat house with a white porch and a blue door. Nothing flashy. Nothing suspicious. Just normal. That somehow made it worse. I parked across the street, sat there, watching, waiting. Just look, I told myself. Don't assume. Don't react. Just observe. Minutes passed. 5, 10. Nothing happened. No one came out. No one went in. It was just a house. Just a door. Just a life I wasn't part of. I felt ridiculous sitting there, like a stranger spying on someone else's reality. And then the door opened. My breath caught. A woman stepped out. Young. That was my first thought. Not a teenager, not a child, but young enough that the difference hit me instantly. Early 30s, maybe. She had dark hair pulled back loosely. Casual clothes, no makeup or very little. She looked ordinary, not glamorous, not intimidating, just real. And that confused me, because in my head I had imagined someone else entirely. Someone sharper, more threatening. But this woman, she looked like someone who could live next door. She walked down the steps slowly, holding a phone in one hand. Then she stopped, looked up, and for a brief second, her eyes met mine across the street. I froze. Did she recognize me? No. That wasn't it. She just looked. Then she looked away, and something strange happened. Something I didn't expect. She smiled, not at me, at her phone, at whatever message she had just read. A soft, genuine smile. And I felt something twist inside my chest, because I had seen that smile before. Not on her, on David, recently. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. No, I whispered. This was real. This was happening. This woman, Emily Carter. She wasn't just a name on a piece of paper. She was real, alive, standing right in front of me. And somehow, that made everything worse. Because now it wasn't just betrayal. It was a life, a whole other life, that my husband had been living without me. I didn't get out of the car. Not yet. I stayed exactly where I was, hands gripping the steering wheel, watching her, like my life depended on it. Emily Carter. She stepped off the porch and walked toward a small silver sedan parked in the driveway. Nothing flashy, no signs of luxury, no expensive lifestyle. That confused me. If David had been secretly transferring money to her for years, where was it? Where was the evidence of that kind of financial support? She unlocked the car, then paused, looked at her phone again, smiled. That same soft, unguarded smile. It made something inside me tighten, because that smile, it wasn't fake. It wasn't manipulative. It was genuine. And that didn't match the story I had built in my head. "Who are you?" I whispered. She got into the car, started the engine, and drove off. I hesitated for half a second. Then I made a decision. I followed her. Not too close, just enough to keep her in sight. The streets wound through quiet neighborhoods, then onto a busier road. She drove carefully. No sudden turns. No signs she noticed me. Good, because I wasn't ready to be seen. After about 10 minutes, she pulled into a parking lot, a medical building. I frowned. This doesn't make sense, I muttered. She parked, grabbed her bag, and walked inside. I waited a minute before getting out of my car. The building sign read Carter Family Health Clinic. My stomach dropped. Carter, same last name. Not just Emily Carter. Carter family. I walked inside slowly, trying to keep my expression neutral. The waiting area was small but clean. A few patients sat quietly. A receptionist behind the desk looked up and smiled. Hi there, how can I help you? I'm just looking for someone. I said, do you have an appointment? No, I stopped. Think. Emily Carter, I said. Is she here? The receptionist nodded. Dr. Carter is with a patient right now. Do you have an appointment with her, Dr. Carter? The words echoed in my head. Doctor? Emily was a doctor. No, I said quickly. I must have the wrong person. Oh, the receptionist said politely. No problem. I turned and walked out before she could say anything else. Back to my car, back to silence. I sat there staring at the building. Dr. Emily Carter, not a mistress living off my husband's money. Not someone hiding in the shadows. A professional, independent, stable. That didn't make this better. It made it worse. Because now, nothing made sense. Why would he? I whispered. Why would David be transferring money to a doctor? Why a joint account? Why the secrecy? My mind tried to adjust the story. Maybe she wasn't an affair. Maybe she was something else. Business partner, no. That didn't fit. There was something more personal here. Something deeper. I leaned back in the seat, closing my eyes for a moment. Think, Christine. Think. The account. The name. The regular deposits. The age difference. The way they hugged. Not romantic. Not exactly. But familiar. Close. Too close for strangers. I opened my eyes slowly. And then it hit me. A possibility I hadn't wanted to consider. A possibility so unsettling my chest tightened just thinking about it. No, I said out loud. That's not possible. But the thought wouldn't go away. What if she wasn't his lover? What if she was? No. I shook my head. That was too much. Too complicated. Too cruel. I needed more information. Facts, not guesses. I pulled out my phone and opened the photos I had taken from the folder, scrolled through them carefully. Transaction after transaction. Dates, amounts, patterns. And then something caught my eye. One of the earlier statements. A note. A transfer labeled Education Support, ECEC. Emily Carter. Education. My heart started beating faster again. Education, I whispered. I kept scrolling. More notes, more patterns. Tuition, rent, medical school. I froze. Medical school. Dr. Carter. The timeline aligned perfectly. This wasn't random. This wasn't new. This had been happening for years. Years. Before she became a doctor. Before she was stable. Before she stood on her own. David had been supporting her. Financially. Consistently. Quietly. I dropped my phone onto my lap. My hands felt cold. Because now the story was changing again. And I didn't like where it was going. Why would he pay for her education? I whispered. There are only so many reasons a man secretly funds a young woman's life for years, and none of them are simple. I swallowed hard, because one answer stood above the rest. and I couldn't ignore it anymore. Family. The word felt heavy in my chest. "What did you do, David?" I whispered. I looked back at the clinic, at the name on the sign. Carter, Family Health. Family. The irony wasn't lost on me. I let out a slow breath. Then I made another decision. I wasn't done here. If Emily Carter was connected to David in a deeper way, then I needed to know everything, not just assumptions, not just possibilities. Truth. I grabbed my phone again and searched the clinic online. It came up immediately. Professional website, staff page. I clicked. There she was. A photo. Same woman. Same face I had just seen. But now clearer, more defined, and something about it made my heart stop. Because the more I looked, the more I saw it. Not just resemblance, something stronger. Her eyes, the shape of her face, the way she smiled. I had seen that before. Not in her, in David. My chest tightened painfully. "No," I whispered, but I couldn't look away. Because now it was obvious. So obvious, I didn't understand how I hadn't seen it before. Emily Carter looked like my husband. I sat there in my car, staring at her photo on my phone like it might change if I blinked. But it didn't. The resemblance was still there. Subtle, but undeniable. The eyes, the jawline, even the way she smiled. "David," I whispered. "What did you do?" My chest felt tight, like the air had been pulled out of the car. Because now this wasn't just about betrayal. It wasn't just about money. This was something else. Something deeper. Something that reached back years, maybe decades before I even knew it existed. I gripped my phone tighter. "Okay," I said out loud. "Don't jump to conclusions." But my mind had already gone there. A daughter. The word felt strange in my head. Foreign, threatening, because if it was true, if Emily Carter was his daughter, then everything I thought I knew about my marriage was incomplete. I exhaled slowly, forcing myself to think clearly. "Don't assume," I repeated. I needed proof, real proof. Not just a resemblance, not just financial support. Facts. I looked back at the clinic entrance. Patients came and went. Normal life, normal routines. And somewhere inside that building was a woman who might be connected to my husband in a way I never imagined. I checked the time. Almost noon. If she was seeing patients, she'd be busy for a while, which meant I had time to think. And that's when something clicked. A memory. Faint. Old. But suddenly important. I leaned back in the seat, closing my eyes, trying to pull it forward. Think Christine. And then I saw it. Not clearly at first. Just a fragment. David years ago, maybe before Laura was born. Talking about something. No, not talking. Avoiding. That was it. Avoiding a conversation. I opened my eyes again. Who was she? I whispered. Because I remembered now. There had been someone. Before me. Not serious, at least that's what he said. Just a short thing he had told me once years ago. Nothing that mattered. I had believed him. Of course I had. We were young. In love. Starting a life together. Why would I question something that had already ended? But now that memory didn't feel harmless anymore. Now it felt like the beginning of something I had never fully understood. I picked up my phone again and scrolled through the photos of the bank statements, looking for dates, trying to match timelines. The earliest transaction I had photographed was from about 12 years ago. Regular deposits started around then. 12 years. I did the math quickly. If Emily was in her early 30s. Then 12 years ago, she would have been in her early 20s. College age, medical school timeline, it fit. Too perfectly. My hands started trembling again. Because if that was true, then David hadn't just been supporting her. He had been hiding her. For over a decade. From me. From our family. From everything. Why, I whispered. That question wouldn't leave me alone. Because if she was his daughter, why hide it? Why not tell me? Unless he thought I wouldn't accept it. Unless he didn't trust me. Or worse. From everything. Why? I whispered. That question wouldn't leave me alone. Because if she was his daughter, why hide it? Why not tell me? Unless he thought I wouldn't accept it. Unless he didn't trust me. Or worse. Unless he didn't want to deal with the consequences. I felt anger rising again. Hotter this time. Sharper. 35 years. I said under my breath. And you couldn't tell me this. But anger wasn't enough. Not yet. Because I still didn't know everything. And something told me there was more. There's always more. I looked at the clinic door again. And then, without fully deciding to, I got out of the car. My legs felt unsteady as I walked back inside. The receptionist looked up again. Oh, hi, did you need something? I forced a small smile. Yes, actually. I realized I do need to speak with Dr. Carter. Do you have an appointment? No, I said. But it's personal. She hesitated. I can see if she has time, but she's pretty booked today. That's okay, I said quickly. I can wait. She nodded. Have a seat. I sat down. My heart was pounding so loudly I was sure everyone could hear it. This was it. This was crossing another line. But I couldn't stop now. Not when I was this close. Minutes passed. Each one felt like an hour. I watched the door that led to the exam rooms. Waiting. Thinking. Preparing. What would I say? Hi, I think you might be my husband's daughter. No, too direct. Too insane. Maybe I'd start simpler. Ask about her connection to David. Watch her reaction. Yes. That was better. Stay calm. Stay controlled. Just like him. The door opened. A nurse stepped out calling a name. Not mine. Another patient went in. Time stretched. My thoughts spiraled again. What if I was wrong? What if this was all coincidence? What if I embarrassed myself? But then I remembered the account, the money, the resemblance. No, this wasn't coincidence. This was something real, and I needed to face it. Finally, the door opened again, and she stepped out. Emily, Dr. Carter. She was talking to a patient, smiling politely, professional, composed. She didn't see me at first, but then she did. Our eyes met again, and this time she didn't look away immediately. She studied me, just for a second, like she was trying to place me. My heart skipped. Did she recognize something too? No. That was impossible. Or was it Dr. Carter, the receptionist called? There's a walk-in who'd like to speak with you. Emily looked at me. Curious now, cautious. Okay, she said slowly. Give me a minute. She turned back to me. Hi, she said, stepping closer. I'm Dr. Carter. How can I help you? Her voice was calm, warm, and that made this even harder. I stood up slowly. My legs felt weak. "My name is Christine," I said. I paused, just for a second. Then I added Christine Wells. The moment the last name left my mouth, everything changed. Her expression shifted. Not dramatically, but enough. Enough for me to see it. Recognition, shock, and something else. Something deeper. Something that confirmed everything I had been afraid of. She knew that name, and she knew exactly why I was here. The air between us changed the moment I said my name. Christine Wells. I watched it happen in real time. That flicker in her eyes, recognition, then tension, then something else. Something almost like fear. Not confusion, not surprise, recognition. She knew exactly who I was, and that told me everything I needed to know. "Can we talk?" I asked quietly. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she glanced toward the receptionist, then back at me. Professional mask back in place. "Give me 5 minutes," she said. Not a question, a decision. Then she turned and walked back through the door, leaving me standing there, heart racing, hands cold. 5 minutes. That's all it took for my entire life to feel like it was hanging in the balance. I sat back down. Every second felt louder than the last. My thoughts weren't racing anymore. They were settling into something solid, something undeniable. She knew my name. That wasn't a coincidence. That wasn't a guess. That was history. 5 minutes later, she came back. "Come with me," she said. No smile this time, no softness, just controlled. I followed her down a short hallway into a small office. She closed the door behind us. The click of the lock felt louder than it should have. For a moment, neither of us spoke. We just looked at each other. Really looked. And now, up close, it was even clearer. The resemblance. Not identical, but enough. Enough that once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. "You look like him," I said, before I could stop myself. Her expression didn't change. "I know," she said quietly. That was it. That was the moment everything became real. Not a theory, not a suspicion. Truth. My knees felt weak, so I sat down without asking. She stayed standing for a moment, then slowly took the chair across from me. "You weren't supposed to find out like this," she said. Her voice was calm, but underneath it, there was something else. Guilt. I swallowed hard. How was I supposed to find out? I asked. She didn't answer, because there wasn't a good answer. Of course there wasn't. I let out a slow breath. "Say it," I said. She hesitated, then looked me straight in the eyes. "I'm his daughter." The words didn't explode. They didn't crash. They just landed. Heavy, final, unavoidable. I closed my eyes for a second, not because I didn't believe her, but because I did. And that hurt more. "How long?" I asked. "Since I was born," she said softly. That almost made me laugh. Not because it was funny, because it was cruel. "No," I said. "How long have you known him?" Her expression shifted slightly. "About 12 years, she said. 12 years. That number again. Consistent, everything lining up. And before that I asked. My mom didn't tell me who my father was," she said. "Not until she got sick." I opened my eyes, looked at her again, really looked. This wasn't some calculated mistress. This was a woman carrying her own story, her own pain. "She told you it was David?" I asked. "Yes, and you just found him." "It wasn't that simple," she said. I had a name. A city. That she said. I had a name. A city. That was it. And when you found him? She hesitated. He didn't believe me at first. That made sense. Of course it did. Then what changed, I asked. A DNA test, she said. Silence filled the room again. Because that was it. And when you found him? She hesitated. He didn't believe me at first. That made sense. Of course it did. Then what changed, I asked. A DNA test, she said. Silence filled the room again. Because that was undeniable. No excuses, no confusion, just fact. And after that, I asked. She looked down at her hands. He wanted to help, she said. Financially? Help, I repeated. Yes. With a secret account, I asked. Her jaw tightened slightly. He said it was easier that way. Easier for who? I snapped. She flinched. Just a little, and immediately I felt something shift inside me. Because she wasn't the one who lied to me. He was. Still, the anger had to go somewhere. I didn't ask him to hide it from you, she said quietly. Then why did he? I pressed. She shook her head. I don't know. I studied her face, looking for deception, looking for manipulation. I didn't see it, just honesty and something else. Discomfort. You knew about me, I said. It wasn't a question. She nodded slowly. Yes. I don't know. I studied her face, looking for deception, looking for manipulation. I didn't see it, just honesty and something else. Discomfort. You knew about me, I said. It wasn't a question. She nodded slowly. Yes. For how long? Since the beginning. Since the beginning. I repeated, my voice tightening. So, you've known about me for 12 years and never once thought maybe I deserved to know about you. Her eyes filled slightly, but she didn't look away. It wasn't my place, she said. That's convenient. It's true, she said a little firmer now. He asked me not to contact you. Of course he did. Of course he did. Because that would have forced the truth out into the open. And David didn't do uncomfortable truths. He buried them, managed them, controlled them, just like everything else. What about the money, I asked. What about it? You're a doctor, I said. You have your own life. Why is he still transferring money to you? Her expression softened slightly. He helped me through medical school, she said. Loans, rent, everything. I wouldn't be here without him. And now I don't need it anymore, she said. I told him that, but he keeps sending it anyway. She nodded. He says it's not just about need, it's about making up for lost time. I let out a bitter laugh. Lost time, I repeated. And he thinks money fixes that. She didn't answer, because she knew it didn't. We sat there in silence again. Two women connected by one man, one who had lied to both of us in different ways. I thought you were having an affair, I said finally. Her eyes widened slightly. An affair, she repeated. Yes, I said. Secret account, hidden money, a younger woman. She shook her head quickly. No, never. I believed her. And that somehow made everything worse, because this wasn't a betrayal of desire. It was a betrayal of truth, of trust, of honesty, which cuts deeper. I need to ask you something, I said. Okay. Did he ever plan to tell me? She hesitated, and that hesitation was my answer. No, I said quietly. She looked down. I don't know, she said softly. But I did. I knew. Because if he was going to tell me, he would have already done it. 12 years is not hesitation. It's a decision, A long, consistent, deliberate decision. I stood up slowly. I have everything I need, I said. Christine. I held up a hand. Don't, I said, not harsh, just firm. She stopped. I looked at her one last time, at the face that now made sense, at the truth that had been hidden for over a decade. You didn't do this to me, I said quietly. Her eyes filled again. But he did. And with that, I turned and walked out. I don't remember the drive home. Not clearly. I know I got into the car. I know I started the engine. I know I followed the same roads back. But my mind wasn't on the road. It was somewhere else. Somewhere between the past I thought I had and the reality I had just uncovered. David had a daughter. Not just a secret. Not just a mistake. A whole human being. A life. 12 years of knowing her while sleeping beside me every night. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. How do you hide something like that? I whispered. But deep down, I already knew the answer. You don't hide it all at once. You hide it piece by piece, day by day, lie by lie. And before anyone notices, it becomes normal. By the time I pulled into the driveway, my chest felt heavy. Not chaotic anymore. Heavy. Like something had settled inside me. Something permanent. I turned off the engine and sat there for a moment. The house looked the same. Of course it did. White siding, blue shutters, the same front porch where we'd sat together so many evenings. Nothing had changed. Except everything. I walked inside slowly, set my keys down. The silence greeted me like an old friend, except now it felt different, colder. I walked into the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. My hands were steady. That surprised me. After everything I had just learned, I expected to be shaking, crying, falling apart, but I wasn't, because something inside me had shifted. Shock had passed. Now there was clarity, and clarity is a dangerous thing, because once you see the truth, you can't go back. I sat at the table, the same table where we had eaten dinner last night, where he had looked at me calmly while hiding everything. I let out a slow breath. Okay, I said to myself. What now? That was the real question. Not what happened, not why, but what I was going to do with it, because there were only two options. Pretend I didn't know, or confront it. And pretending was no longer possible. I glanced at the clock. 3:12 p.m. He would be home around 6. 3 hours. 3 hours to decide how I wanted this to go. I stood up and walked back to his study. The door was exactly where I had left it, closed, unassuming, like it didn't hold the answers to a life I had never known. I stepped inside. Everything was still in place, neat, controlled, perfect. I walked to the desk and opened the drawer again. This time, there was no hesitation, no guilt, just purpose. I pulled out the folder, sat down, opened it, and started reading again. But this time, I wasn't looking for discovery. I was looking for understanding. Dates, patterns, consistency. The first transaction 12 years ago, right after Emily found him. Regular support, tuition payments, rent, living expenses, all carefully documented. all hidden. My eyes moved slower this time, more focused, less emotional. And then I noticed something new. A shift. About 2 years ago, the payments changed. They became smaller, less frequent. Then eventually, my eyes moved slower this time, more focused, less emotional. And then I noticed something new. A shift. About 2 years ago, the payments changed. They became smaller, less frequent, then eventually occasional. Not support anymore. Something else. Something symbolic. Guilt, I whispered. Or maybe responsibility. I flipped to the most recent page. The $48,000 bonus. Transferred in full. Not split. Not partially shared. All of it sent to her account. That wasn't support. That was a decision. A deliberate one. And that raised a new question. Why now? Why send everything? Why hide it from me so completely? Because this wasn't just about his daughter anymore. This was about me. About what he chose to keep from me. And what he chose to give to someone else. Even if that someone else was his child. I closed the folder slowly. Because I realized something important. This wasn't about money. It never really was. It was about trust. And trust doesn't survive secrets like this. I leaned back in the chair, staring at the ceiling. 35 years. 35 years of shared life, shared decisions, shared sacrifices. Or at least, that's what I thought. Because now I could see it clearly. We weren't sharing everything. He had been living a parallel truth, one that didn't include me, one that he managed carefully, quietly, efficiently, just like everything else in his life. I stood up, walked out of the study, and went upstairs. Our bedroom felt different now, like it belonged to strangers. I opened the closet, looked at his side, his clothes, his shoes, everything exactly where it should be, exactly how I had always known it. And suddenly, it felt like evidence, not comfort. I reached for a suitcase, pulled it out, set it on the bed. For a moment, I just stared at it, because this made things real, final. I wasn't just thinking anymore. I was acting. I opened it slowly, then stopped, my hand resting on the zipper. Is this what I want? I whispered. Because leaving was a decision you don't take back easily. 35 years doesn't disappear overnight. Memories don't vanish. Love doesn't vanish. And that was the hardest part. Because despite everything, I still loved him. That truth sat heavy in my chest. Complicated everything. Made everything harder. I closed my eyes for a second, then opened them again. No, I said quietly. Not yet. Leaving wasn't the first step. Truth was. I zipped the suitcase shut, pushed it back into the closet, and walked back downstairs. Because I wasn't going anywhere. Not until I heard it from him. Not until he said it out loud. No more hiding. No more silence. No more secrets. I sat back down at the kitchen table, the same spot, the same chair. But I wasn't the same woman who sat there this morning. I looked at the clock again. 4:47 p.m. A little over an hour. My heart started beating faster again. Not from fear, from anticipation. Because for the first time in 35 years, I wasn't waiting for my husband to come home. I was waiting to confront him. And this time, I wasn't going to let him control the conversation. I wasn't going to accept half-truths. I wasn't going to be the trusting wife who looked the other way. This time, I was going to demand the truth. And whatever happened after that would be the result of his choices, not mine. The sound of the garage door opening used to comfort me. It meant he was home. It meant the day was ending. It meant everything was still intact. Tonight, it sounded different, louder, heavier, like something final was about to begin. I didn't move from the kitchen table. I didn't greet him. I didn't pretend. I just sat there, hands folded, waiting. The door opened. "Christine!" David's voice called out, casual, familiar. The same voice I had trusted for decades. The same voice that had lied to me for 12 years. "I'm here," I said. He walked into the kitchen, loosening his tie. He smiled when he saw me. "Hey," he said. "You're home early." I didn't smile back. That's when he noticed. His expression shifted slightly. Concern. "Everything okay?" he asked. I studied his face, really studied it. Every line, every expression, every detail I had memorized over 35 years. And now I could see it, the part of him I didn't know. "No," I said calmly. "Everything is not okay." He paused, just for a second. But it was enough. Enough for me to see the flicker, the calculation, the awareness. He knew something was wrong. "Okay," he said slowly. "What's going on?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I reached over to the counter, picked up the folder, and placed it in front of him, gently, deliberately. His eyes dropped to it, then back to me. "What's this?" he asked. "You tell me," I said. Silence. Thick. Heavy. He didn't touch the folder at first, just looked at it, like it might disappear if he waited long enough. It didn't. "Christine," he started. "Open it," I said. My voice was steady, stronger than I felt. He hesitated, then slowly reached out, opened the folder, flipped through the pages. I watched his face as he read, and there it was. The shift. Not confusion, not surprise, recognition, guilt. "Where did you get this?" he asked quietly. "Your desk," I said. Another pause. He nodded slightly. Like he expected that. Of course he did, because deep down, he knew this day would come. "Say it," I said. He looked up at me. "What?" "Say what this is," I said, out loud. He swallowed. His jaw tightened. "It's an account," he said. "No," I said sharply. "Don't do that." He flinched slightly. "Don't minimize it. Don't soften it. Say the truth." Silence again. Then finally, "It's an account I share with my daughter." There it was, out loud, in this house, between us. My chest tightened, but I didn't look away. "Her name," I said. He hesitated. "Then it's an account I share with my daughter." There it was, out loud, in this house, between us. My chest tightened, but I didn't look away. "Her name," I said. He hesitated. "Then Emily." "Emily Carter," I added. His eyes flickered. "You've met her," he said. It wasn't a question. "No," I said. "I found her. That landed. Hard." He leaned back slightly, running a hand over his face. When he asked, today. And she told me everything I said. Not entirely true, but enough. He closed his eyes for a second, then opened them again. Okay, he said quietly. Okay. That word felt so small, so insufficient. Okay, I repeated. That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say? Christine, he asked. The question almost made me laugh. What do I want you to say? I said. How about the truth? For once, I am telling you the truth, he said. Now you are, I shot back, after 12 years. He didn't argue, because he couldn't. Why, I asked. That was it. The question that mattered. Not what, not when, why. He looked at me, really looked, and for the first time I saw something I hadn't seen before. Not control, not confidence, fear. I didn't know how to tell you, he said. I let out a bitter breath. You didn't know how to tell me, so you just didn't. It wasn't that simple, he said. Then explain it. I said, because from where I'm sitting, it looks very simple. He rubbed his temples, like this was exhausting for him. That annoyed me more than anything. I found out about her 12 years ago, he said. Her mother contacted me. She was sick. I know, I said. Emily told me. He nodded. I didn't believe it at first. Then we did the test. And she was yours. I said, yes. And you decided to keep that from me. He hesitated. I needed time, he said. 12 years, I asked. He winced. I didn't mean for it to go that long. That's exactly what you meant, I said, because every day you chose not to tell me was a decision. He didn't respond, because he knew I was right. I was trying to handle it, he said, finally. Handle it, I repeated, like it was a business problem. No, he said, like it was complicated. Complicated for who I asked. For all of us, he said. I shook my head slowly. No, I said. It was complicated for you. So you made it simple by cutting me out. That's not fair, he said. Fair, I said. You want to talk about fair? I leaned forward slightly. You let me believe we shared everything. You let me trust you completely. And all this time, you had a whole other life. It wasn't another life, he said quickly. Then what was it, I demanded. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Because there was no good answer. I was trying to protect you, he said finally. I laughed. A short, sharp sound. Protect me, I said. From what? The truth. From the shock, he said. From the stress. From reality. I cut in. He looked at me frustrated now. I didn't want to hurt you, he said. And how's that working out? I asked quietly. That stopped him. Because now, the damage was visible, unavoidable. He looked down at the folder again, then back at me. I was going to tell you, he said. I didn't even react. Because that line was too predictable. When I asked, he hesitated. I don't know, he admitted. Exactly. You didn't have a plan, I said. You just hoped I'd never find out. That's not true, he said. It is, I said calmly. Because if I hadn't opened that drawer today, you'd still be lying to me. Silence. Heavy. Final. Because that was the truth, and he knew it. We sat there facing each other, 35 years of marriage between us. And for the first time, it felt fragile, like it could break. Right there, on that kitchen table. We didn't move, not right away. The silence stretched between us like something fragile, like if either of us spoke too fast, it would shatter into something worse. David leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. I watched him carefully, not as his wife, but as someone trying to understand who he really was. Say everything I said quietly. No more editing, no more protecting me. Just the truth. He nodded once. Okay, that word again. But this time, it felt heavier. Real. I didn't tell you about Emily, he began, because I was afraid of what it would do to us. I didn't interrupt. I let him talk. I found out she existed, and everything changed overnight, he said. One day, I had one life. The next day, I had another responsibility, another reality I didn't know how to fit into what we already had. So you hid it, I said. Yes. At least he didn't deny it. I told myself it was temporary, he continued, that I'd figure out the right way to tell you. But you never did, I said. No. Silence again. But this time, it wasn't empty. It was full. Full of everything that had been avoided for 12 years. You paid for her life, I said. Yes. Tuition, rent, everything. Yes. And you never once thought maybe I deserved to be part of that decision I did, he said quickly. Of course I did. Then why wasn't I asked? He looked at me, and for a moment he didn't have an answer. Not a real one. Because I didn't know how you'd react, he said finally. I shook my head slowly. That's not an answer, I said. That's an excuse. His jaw tightened. I was trying to protect our marriage, he said. No, I said. You were protecting yourself. That landed hard. Because it was true, and he knew it. I didn't want to risk losing you, he said. And lying to me was the safer option, I asked. I didn't think of it as lying at the time. I almost laughed again. You didn't think hiding a child from your wife for 12 years was lying. When you say it like that, it sounds like your lying ears was lying. When you say it like that, because that's exactly what it is. I cut in. He leaned forward slightly. I wasn't having an affair, he said. I wasn't betraying you in that way. That's not the only way to betray someone, I said quietly. That stopped him. Because he hadn't thought of it like that. Or maybe he had and just didn't want to admit it. I still came home to you every night, he said. I was still here. I was still... Physically, I interrupted. He fell silent. Do you know what hurts the most, I asked. He didn't answer. You didn't trust me, I said. That was it. That was the core of everything. You made a decision about our life without me. I continued. You decided what I could handle, what I should know, what I didn't deserve to know. That's not fair, he said. It is, I said calmly, because you took away my choice. Silence again, longer this time. He leaned back, staring at the table. I thought you'd resent her, he said finally. That caught me off guard. Resent her, I repeated. Yes, he said. She's a reminder of something that happened before you, something I never told you about. I thought you'd see her as a mistake. I frowned. A mistake, I said. She's your daughter? I know that, he said quickly. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? I meant I thought you'd see her as something that threatened what we built. I sat there for a moment processing that, because part of it wasn't entirely wrong. But it wasn't entirely right either. You didn't give me the chance to decide that, I said. He didn't respond, because again, that was the truth. And what about the money? I asked. The bonus? He hesitated, then looked at me. That was different. How? I asked. He exhaled slowly. She didn't need it anymore, he said. Not like before, but I wanted to do something significant. Significant, I repeated. Yes. So, you gave her everything I said. It wasn't about choosing her over you, he said quickly. But that's exactly what it looks like, I replied. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated now. I didn't think of it like that, he said. That's the problem, I said. You didn't think of me at all. That silence again. But this time, it felt heavier. Because now we were getting to something deeper. Not just what he did, but how he thought. I thought you'd be angry, he admitted. I am angry, I said. I know, but that's not all I am, I added. He looked at me, confused. What else? He asked. I hesitated, because this part was harder to say. I'm hurt, I said finally. My voice was quieter now, less sharp, more real. Not because she exists, I continued, but because you built a part of your life without me. He didn't interrupt. I could have understood, I said. Maybe not immediately, maybe not perfectly, but I could have tried. I know, he said softly. No, I said, you don't. Because if he did, he wouldn't have made the choices he did. You assumed the worst about me, I said. That I couldn't handle it. That I'd react badly. That it'd ruin everything. I didn't think that, he said. Then what did you think? I asked. He didn't answer. Because whatever he thought, it led to 12 years of silence. And that spoke louder than anything he could say now. I leaned back in my chair, exhaustion starting to settle in. Because this wasn't just one conversation. This was 12 years of conversations we never had. All this time I said quietly, I thought we were partners. We are, he said quickly. Are we? I asked. He stopped. Because now that question didn't have an easy answer. I don't know anymore, I said. And that was the truth, the hardest truth of all. Because once trust breaks, it doesn't come back easily. And sometimes, it doesn't come back at all. We sat there, both of us quiet now. Not because there was nothing left to say, but because we had finally reached the part where words weren't enough anymore. David looked tired, not physically, emotionally, like the weight of 12 years had finally caught up to him. And for the first time, I wasn't focused on his explanations. I was focused on what came next. What happens now? Like the weight of 12 years had finally caught up to him. And for the first time, I wasn't focused on his explanations. I was focused on what came next. What happens now? I asked. My voice was calm, too calm. He looked at me uncertain. I don't know, he said. That didn't surprise me, because for 12 years he hadn't planned for this moment. He had just avoided it. Well, I do, I said. That got his attention. I leaned forward slightly. No more secrets, I said. Not one. Not ever again. He nodded immediately. Of course, and that includes her, I added. His expression shifted. What do you mean, no more secrets? I said. Not one? Not ever again? He nodded immediately. Of course, and that includes her, I added. His expression shifted. What do you mean? I said slowly. She's not a secret anymore. He hesitated. That's complicated, he said. I almost smiled. Everything is complicated now, I replied. That's not an excuse anymore. He leaned back, thinking. I don't know if she'd be comfortable with that, he said. I held his gaze. She already met me, I said. I think we're past comfort. That silenced him. Because again, there was no argument. She's your daughter, I continued. Which means whether you like it or not. She already met me, I said. I think we're past comfort. That silenced him. Because again, there was no argument. She's your daughter, I continued. Which means whether you like it or not, she's part of this family now. He looked at me carefully, trying to understand what I meant. What are you saying? He asked. I'm saying I want to meet her, I said. That landed, harder than anything else I had said so far. You already did, he said. That wasn't a meeting, I replied. That was a confrontation. He didn't argue, because he knew the difference. You want... what? He asked slowly. A real conversation, I said. Not as strangers, not as a secret, but as people who are connected whether we planned it or not. He studied my face, suspicious, confused. Why, he asked. That was a fair question, one I had asked myself on the drive home, and the answer wasn't simple. Because she didn't lie to me, I said. That hit him. Not loudly, but deeply. And because this situation isn't her fault, I added. He looked down, guilt flickering across his face again. And because, I continued, my voice softer now, if I'm going to figure out what this marriage means now, I need to understand everything, not just your version of it. Silence. Long. Heavy. You're serious, he said finally. Yes, and if I say no, I didn't hesitate. Then we have a bigger problem, I said. He exhaled slowly, because he understood. This wasn't a request. It was a boundary, a new one, and he had already crossed too many. I can talk to her, he said. No, I said. We talk to her. He looked at me again. This time, something different in his eyes. Not just fear, respect. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't reacting. I was deciding. Okay, he said quietly. Okay, that word again. But this time, it felt different. Less like avoidance, more like acceptance. I leaned back in my chair. For the first time since this started, I felt something shift. Not relief, not forgiveness, but direct ion. We're not done, I said. I know. I leaned back in my chair. For the first time since this started, I felt something shift. Not relief, not forgiveness, but direction. We're not done, I said. I know, he replied, not even close. I know. Another pause, then tears, something else, he said. I froze slightly, because that sentence could mean anything. What I asked carefully. He hesitated, and that hesitation made my stomach drop, because I knew that look now. I had seen it too many times today. It meant there was more. There's something I didn't tell you, he said. I let out a slow breath. Of course there was. Of course. Go ahead, I said. He looked at me conflicted. Then finally, Her mother didn't just contact me 12 years ago, he said. I frowned. What do you mean? She contacted me once before. That, he said. Everything inside me went still. When I asked, years ago, he said. Before we got married, my chest tightened. Why didn't you tell me that? I asked. Because I didn't think it mattered, he said quickly. Didn't matter, I repeated. She told me she was pregnant, he said. The words hit like a shockwave, and you just ignored it. I asked. I didn't believe her, he said. We had only been together a short time. I thought she was lying. And then I asked. I never heard from her again, he said, until 12 years ago. I stared at him, trying to process that. You knew there was a possibility, I said. A small one, he insisted. But you knew, I said. He didn't deny it, because he couldn't. And you still didn't tell me, I said. Christine. No, I said, shaking my head. That changes things. Because it did. This wasn't just something that appeared out of nowhere 12 years ago. This was something that existed before me, before our marriage, before everything we built. You had a chance to tell me before we got married, I said. He stayed silent. And you chose not to, I added. I didn't think it was real, he said. That's not the point, I said. The point is, you made that decision alone, again. The pattern, the same pattern. Control. Silence. Choice without me. I stood up slowly. I need some air, I said. Christine? I'm not leaving, I said. I just need space. He nodded, careful now, because he knew one wrong move could break everything. I walked to the door, paused for a second, then turned back. One conversation at a time, I said. That's how we're going to do this. He nodded again. Okay. And the next one I added includes her. Then I walked outside. Because for the first time in 35 years, I wasn't just dealing with my husband. I was dealing with the truth of who he had always been. And that truth was bigger than I ever imagined. The next morning felt unreal, like I had stepped into someone else's life overnight. I woke up before David, not because I wanted to, because I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face. Emily. The resemblance, the truth. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, just breathing, trying to steady something inside me that refused to settle. Behind me, David shifted slightly in his sleep. For a moment, I just watched him. The man I had loved for decades, the man I thought I knew. And now, he felt unfamiliar. Not completely, but enough. Enough that I couldn't look at him the same way. I stood up quietly and walked downstairs. The house was still. Peaceful. Deceptively normal. I made coffee, out of habit. The routine felt strange now, like I was performing a role I hadn't decided if I still belonged in. I sat at the kitchen table again. Same seat, same place. But today, it felt like a different chapter. My phone sat in front of me, and for the first time, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I picked it up, scrolled through my recent calls. Her number wasn't there. Of course it wasn't, but I knew where to find her. The clinic, the name. I had all I needed. Still, my finger hovered over the screen, because calling her made this real in a different way. Not just between me and David, but between me and her. And I didn't know what that would look like. Not yet. I exhaled slowly. then stood up. No call. Not yet. This wasn't something I wanted to rush. I needed to think, to feel, to understand what I was walking into. Footsteps behind me. David. You're up early, he said. His voice was softer this morning. Careful. Measured. I couldn't sleep, I replied. He nodded. Me neither. Silence. Awkward. Heavy. This was new. We had never been awkward before. Not like this. Coffee? I asked. He hesitated, then nodded. Yes, thank you. I poured him a cup, set it on the table. He sat across from me, the same place he had sat last night. But today, there was distance between us. Invisible, but undeniable. I've been thinking, he said. I didn't respond. I let him continue. I'll call her, he said. Set something up. I shook my head slightly. No, I said. He frowned. No, I'll call her, I said. That surprised him. Are you sure, he asked? Yes. Why? Because this mattered. Because I needed control of at least one part of this situation. Because I don't want this filtered through you, I said. Not anymore. He looked at me, hurt flickering in his eyes, but he didn't argue, because he understood why. Okay, he said quietly. I nodded once, then picked up my phone again. This time I didn't hesitate. I searched the clinic's number, pressed call. It rang twice. Good morning, Carter Family Clinic, a voice answered. Hi, I said. I'd like to speak with Dr. Carter. May I ask who's calling? Christine Wells. There was a pause, short but noticeable. One moment, please. I waited, heart steady, breathing controlled. No turning back now. A click. Then, hello? Her voice. Calm, but cautious. It's Christine, I said. Silence. Then I thought you might call, she said. That didn't surprise me. Can we meet? I asked. Yes, she said immediately. No hesitation, no resistance, when she asked. Today, I said. Another pause. Okay, she replied. After work, where I asked. Not the clinic, she said. Somewhere neutral. That made sense. Do you know Maple Street Cafe? She asked. Yes. 6 o'clock I'll be there, I said. We hung up, just like that. Simple, direct, final. I set the phone down slowly. David was watching me. What did she say, he asked. We're meeting, I replied. When 6? Where Maple Street Caf? He nodded, then hesitated. Do you want me there? He asked. I looked at him, carefully. This was important. No, I said. That landed. I think the first conversation should just be between us, I added. He nodded slowly. I understand. And for once, I believed him. We sat there in silence again. But this silence, this was important. No, I said. That landed. I think the first conversation should just be between us, I added. He nodded slowly. I understand. And for once, I believed him. We sat there in silence again. But this silence was different. Not tense, not explosive, just quiet. Processing. Preparing. I'm not trying to take her away from you, I said suddenly. He looked up surprised. I know, he said. But I am trying to understand where I fit in all of this, I continued. He nodded again. I know, and maybe, just maybe, he actually did. The rest of the day passed slowly. Every hour felt longer than it should. Every minute, a countdown. I didn't do much. I couldn't focus. Couldn't pretend things were normal. Because they weren't. By the time 5:30 came, I was ready. Not confident, not calm, but ready. I grabbed my purse, headed for the door. Christine, David said behind me. I turned. He looked unsure. I'm sorry, he said. 3 words, simple, but heavy. I studied his face, and for the first time since all of this started, I didn't see defensiveness, or control, or avoidance, just regret. Real regret. I nodded slightly. I know, I said. Then I walked out. Because tonight wasn't about him. It was about her. And whatever happened next would shape everything that came after. Maple Street Cafe was quieter than I expected. Soft lighting, low conversations. The kind of place people went to feel safe or to say things they didn't want the world to hear. I arrived 10 minutes early, relled to hear. I arrived 10 minutes early. Not because I was eager. Because I didn't trust myself to be late. I needed those 10 minutes to sit, to breathe, to prepare. I chose a table near the window, ordered tea. Didn't touch it. My hands rested on the table fingers, lightly interlocked, like I was holding myself together from the outside. The door opened, and I knew it was her before I even looked up. Emily. She stepped inside, slowly scanning the room. Then her eyes found me. For a second, we just looked at each other. No anger, no accusation. Just awareness. She walked over. Hi, she said softly. Hi, I replied. She sat down across from me. Not too close, not too far. Careful, just like me. Thank you for coming, she said. I needed to, I answered. A server came by, asked if she wanted anything. Just coffee, she said. Then we were alone again. Silence settled between us. But it wasn't uncomfortable. Not exactly. Just unfamiliar. I wasn't sure if you'd actually call, she admitted. I wasn't sure either, I said honestly. That made her smile slightly, a small, nervous smile, and for a moment, I saw something different, not just David in her, but something softer, something human. I've been thinking about yesterday, she said. So have I replied. Another pause. Then, I'm sorry, she said. The words were quiet, careful, but real. I tilted my head slightly. For what? I asked. For all of it, she said. For how you found out. For the situation. For being part of something that hurt you. I studied her face, looking for anything false. I didn't find it. You didn't create this, I said. No, she agreed. But I existed in it. That was fair. You didn't lie to me, I added. No, she said. But I didn't tell you either. That honesty, I respected it, more than I expected to. Why didn't you? I asked. She exhaled slowly. Because it wasn't my decision to make, she said, and because I didn't want to make things worse. Worse for who I asked. For him, she said. There it was. Loyalty. Not to me. To him. Of course. That makes sense, I said quietly. Her coffee arrived. She wrapped her hands around the cup like she needed something to hold on to. I didn't come here to blame you, I said. I know, she replied. I came here because I need to understand what this is, I continued. She nodded. I understand. And I need to know what you want, I added. That surprised her. What I want, she repeated. Yes, I said, because you're part of this now, whether any of us planned it or not. She looked down for a moment, thinking, careful. I never wanted to take anything from you, she said finally. I believe that, I replied. I didn't come into his life to replace anyone, she continued. I just found him. Her voice softened on that last part, and something about it hit me. Because that wasn't manipulation. That was truth. You were looking for him, I said. Yes, and he found you, I added. She nodded, and everything changed, she said. For both of you? I replied. Yes. Silence again. But this time it felt less heavy, more grounded. I need to ask you something, I said. Okay. Do you see him as your father? She didn't hesitate. Yes, no doubt. No confusion. Just certainty. And does he see you that way? I asked. Her expression softened. Yes. That answer was harder to hear, because it meant something real existed between them. Something built, something nurtured, something I was never part of. And what do you see me, as I asked? That question caught her off guard. She blinked slightly. I don't know yet, she admitted. That was honest, painfully honest. I've known about you for years, she continued, but only as an idea, not as a person. That's fair, I said. And now? I asked. She hesitated. Now you're real, she said. I almost smiled, because that's exactly how I felt about her. Real, unavoidable. And I don't know what that means yet, she added. Neither do I said. We sat there for a moment, two strangers, connected by something neither of us chose. I'm not here to replace you, she said again. I know, I replied, and I'm not here to push you out, I added. She looked up at that, surprised. You're not? She asked. No, I said, but I'm also not going to pretend this doesn't change things. It does, she agreed. Everything I said. She nodded slowly. I think we're both trying to figure out where we fit, she said. Yes, I replied. And maybe, she added carefully, we don't have to figure it out all at once. That was reasonable. More reasonable than anything I expected. I don't hate you, I said suddenly. Her eyes widened slightly. I didn't think you did, she said. I thought I might, I admitted. That made her smile faintly. But I don't, I continued, because this isn't your fault. Thank you, she said softly. But that doesn't mean this is easy, I added. I know, she said, and it doesn't mean I trust him again, I continued. Her expression shifted slightly, understanding. I wouldn't expect you to, she said. That answer surprised me, because it meant she saw him clearly too, not just as a father, but as a man capable of this. I don't know what happens next, I said. Neither do I, she replied. But I do know one thing, I added. What's that? I'm not going back to how things were, I said. She nodded. I don't think you should, she said. That was the first time. Someone had said exactly what I was thinking, without hesitation, without fear. And somehow, that mattered more than anything else. I didn't rush home. After I left the cafe, I sat in my car for a long time, hands resting in my lap, staring at nothing. Because something inside me had shifted again. Not broken, not fixed, just clearer. Emily wasn't the problem. That truth settled into me in a way I couldn't ignore anymore. She wasn't a threat. She wasn't an intruder. She was a consequence of a decision David made long before I even knew it existed. And that meant my anger had a direction again. Not scattered, not confused, focused. By the time I walked through the front door, the house felt quieter than usual. David was in the living room, waiting. Of course he was. He stood up the moment he saw me. "How did it go?" he asked. No small talk, no pretending, straight to it. Good. I needed that. I set my purse down slowly, took a breath, then looked at him. "She's not the problem," I said. He blinked, surprised. "I didn't think she was," he said carefully. "No," I replied, "but you let me believe she might be." He didn't respond, because again, that was true. "She's decent." I continued, "Honest, more honest than you've been." That hit him. I saw it, a small flinch, but he didn't defend himself. "I expected to hate her," I admitted. "I don't." He nodded slowly. "I'm glad," he said. I tilted my head slightly. "Are you?" I asked. That caught him off guard. "Of course I am," he said. "Because it makes things easier for you," I pressed. "No," he said, "because it means maybe this doesn't have to destroy everything." There it was, his fear, still centered on loss, still centered on outcome, not entirely on what he did. I walked past him into the kitchen. He followed, careful, measured, waiting for the next thing I would say. "She told me you still send her money," I said. "I told you that," he replied. "No," I said. "You told me you supported her. You didn't tell me you gave her your entire bonus." He hesitated. "Then I wanted to do something meaningful," he said. I turned to face him. "Meaningful," I repeated. "Yes." "For who?" I asked. He frowned. "For her," he said. "And what about me?" I asked quietly. That stopped him, because now we were back to the real issue. "I didn't think of it as taking something from you," he said. "But it was," I replied. He exhaled. "I see that now," he said. I studied his face, looking for deflection, excuses, anything. I didn't see it, just realization. Late, but real. "She doesn't want your money anymore," I said. He blinked. "She told you that?" "Yes, she told me that too," he said. "But you kept sending it anyway," I finished. He nodded. "I thought it was my responsibility," he said. "It is," I replied. "But not like this." He frowned. "What do you mean?" "I mean," I said slowly, "you don't fix 12 years of absence with money." Silence. He knew that, deep down. But hearing it made it undeniable. "I wasn't trying to fix it," he said. "Then what were you doing?" I asked. He didn't answer right away, because there wasn't a clean answer. "I was trying to be present," he said finally. "In secret," I said. He closed his eyes briefly. Yes, that word hung in the air, heavy, because that was the contradiction. He wanted to be present in one part of his life by disappearing from another, and that doesn't work. You can't build something real in hiding, I said. I know that now, he replied. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching him. And what happens next? He asked. I didn't answer immediately, because this part mattered more than anything else. Everything changes, I said. He nodded slowly. I figured, but not in the way you think I added. That got his attention. What do you mean, I'm not leaving? I said. Relief flickered across his face. Too quickly, and I saw it. Don't, I said sharply. His expression froze. Don't look relieved, I continued, because staying doesn't mean forgiving. The relief disappeared, replaced by something else. Understanding. I'm staying because I need to see what this is now, I said. Not what it used to be, he nodded. I understand. And there are conditions, I added. Of course. No more control, I said. No more deciding things for me. Yes. No more secrets. Yes. And she's not hidden anymore, I continued. He hesitated slightly, but only for a second. Okay, he said. I watched him carefully. You're agreeing very quickly, I said. Because I don't have the right to argue, he replied. That answer was honest, and honesty was something I was paying close attention to now. There's one more thing, I said. He looked at me, waiting. I'm opening the account, I said. He blinked. What? The account you forgot I opened, I said. Recognition hit him immediately. Shock. Real shock. You still have access, he asked. Yes. I had opened that account years ago, for emergencies, for independence, for security. Something I never thought I'd actually need. Until now. What are you going to do? He asked. I held his gaze. I'm not hiding anymore, I said. And neither are you. He frowned slightly. Christine. You made financial decisions without me. I continued. That ends now. He stayed silent, because he knew. He had no ground to stand on. I'm not taking anything from her, I added, but I am taking control of what's mine. That's fair, he said quietly. Fair, that word again, except now, it actually meant something. We stood there for a moment, not as the same couple we had been yesterday, but as two people trying to rebuild something that had been cracked open. Not destroyed, but changed. And the truth was, I didn't know what it would become. Not yet. But for the first time since all of this started, I wasn't afraid of that. The house felt different that night. Not tense, not quiet, just honest. For the first time in a long time, nothing was hidden anymore. And that alone changed everything. David sat across from me again, but this time there was no folder between us, no documents, no secrets waiting to be uncovered, just us, raw, unfiltered. I've been thinking about what you said, he began. I didn't interrupt. I understand now, he continued, that this wasn't just about Emily. No, I said, it never was. He nodded slowly. It was about control, he admitted, and fear. That word again, fear. But this time, it didn't sound like an excuse. It sounded like recognition. I thought if I could manage everything quietly, he said, I could keep both parts of my life intact. And instead, I said, you broke both. He winced slightly. But he didn't argue, because now he saw it. I did, he said. Silence settled in, but it wasn't heavy anymore, just real. I don't expect you to forgive me, he added. Good, I said. He looked up surprised. Because I'm not ready to, I continued. He nodded. I understand, but I am willing to see what this becomes, I said. That mattered. That was the line I had drawn. Not forgiveness, not rejection, possibility. I don't deserve that, he said quietly. No, I replied. You don't. That honesty hung between us, sharp, but necessary. But this isn't about what you deserve, I continued. It's about what I choose. He looked at me carefully, and for the first time, I could see it clearly. The shift in power, not dominance, not control, clarity. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was deciding. And I choose not to walk away yet, I said. Relief flickered in his eyes again. But this time, he controlled it. Barely. Thank you, he said. Don't thank me, I replied. Earn it. He nodded. I will. Another pause. Then Theris, something I need to do, I said. He straightened slightly. What? I want all the financial records, I said. Everything, not just what you think matters. He didn't hesitate. Okay, no delays, I added. No filtering. Okay, and I want to be part of every decision moving forward, I continued. You will be, he said. I studied his face, looking for hesitation. There was none. Good. Because this was the new foundation. Not trust, not yet, but transparency. I'm meeting her again, I said. He blinked. When? Soon, I replied. This wasn't a one-time conversation. He nodded slowly. That's good, he said. I'm not doing it for you, I clarified. I know. I'm doing it because she deserves clarity too, I said. He looked down briefly. Guilt again. I should have given both of you that, he said. Yes, I replied. You should have. But we were past that now. Past what should have been. Focused on what is. And there's one more thing, I said. He looked up, waiting. I'm not going to compete with her, I said. He frowned slightly. I don't want you to. No, I interrupted. Listen carefully. He nodded. I'm not competing, I repeated, because this isn't a competition. Okay, he said. She's your daughter? I continued. That's a fact. It doesn't threaten me unless you let it. I won't, he said quickly. You already did, I replied calmly. That stopped him. Because again, truth doesn't need volume. It just needs accuracy. But you don't have to keep doing it, I added. He swallowed slightly. I won't, he said again. This time, it sounded different, more grounded, more aware. We sat there for a while after that. No arguments, no raised voices, just conversation, real conversation. The kind we should have had years ago. Before secrets, before silence, before everything became complicated. Later that night, I stood by the window in the living room, looking out at the quiet street, thinking, not about what I lost, but about what I learned. Because this wasn't just about betrayal. It was about identity, about knowing who you are when the person you trusted most turns out to be someone you didn't fully know. And more importantly, who you choose to become after that. David walked up behind me. Not too close. Careful again. Christine, he said softly. I didn't turn. Yes, I mean it, he said. I'm going to do better. I closed my eyes for a moment, then opened them again. I'm not waiting for better, I said. He went quiet. I'm watching for it, I added. That was the difference. Hope without blindness. I understand, he said. And maybe, for the first time, he actually did. I looked out at the street again, calm, still, unchanged. And yet, everything inside me was different, stronger, clearer. Not because I had control over everything, but because I had control over myself. And that was something no one could take from me again. After everything that happened, I realized something I wish I had understood much earlier in life. Trust isn't just about honesty. It's about inclusion. It's about being part of the decisions that shape your life, your marriage, your future. When someone takes that away from you, whether out of fear, control, or selfishness, it doesn't just hurt. It changes how you see everything. But here's the truth. I want you to take from my story. You don't lose yourself just because someone else made the wrong choices. You don't become smaller because someone else hid the truth. If anything, you become clearer, stronger, more aware of what you deserve. I didn't walk away, not because I was weak, but because I chose to stay and redefine the terms of my life. And that's the key. Choice. No one gets to take that from you. Not your partner, not your past, not even your pain. So, if you've ever been in a situation where someone made you feel like you didn't matter, remember this: you always matter. Your voice matters. Your presence matters. And the moment you decide to stand in that truth, everything begins to change. If this story resonated with you, I'd really love to hear your thoughts. What would you have done in my position? Would you have stayed or walked away? Comment below and share your perspective. And if you're watching this from somewhere in the world right now, tell me where you are and what time it is for you. I always find comfort in knowing we're not alone in these moments. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more real emotional stories like this. You never know which story might help you see your own life a little more clearly.